Hooray! And welcome to Crossplay Podcast episode 122. My name is
21.
Taylor Allen. Oh, you changed the number. Shit. 121. 120 something. I should know this is my show, and I've been on all 121 episodes. My name is Taylor Allen, and I am joined this week by the grounded gamer himself, Mr. Kory Braden. Kory, hello. Welcome.
How's it going?
Well, we were supposed to record this last night, and OBS almost lit my computer on fire. So it's going all right.
I was gonna say that's usually how it works when it's like first time everything's.
You want to know what fixed it? I have no idea.
Sure.
No clue.
Oh,
I just
restarted the computer and then it just magically worked.
I didn't even restart my computer. I just reopened the application today. I was like, let's try. Go hit record. Everything's totally fine.
I've seen that happen way too many times. It's such a weird.
Doesn't make sense to me. I reopened. I reinstalled the app last night. It was like, maybe it's faulty. Maybe there's corrupt data or something. I don't know. Let's reinstall it. Fresh install of OBS. Check all my drivers. Restart the computer. Everything. Nothing was working. This morning, I get up and I'm like, all right, we'll try it. We'll do a quick test recording. Perfectly fine.
Who knows?
I've
had that happen so many times where it's just like, oh, cool. It's actually working today. It's one of my things of, whenever with all the movement and everyone being like, you should become a true PC gamer and just play only on PC and all that stuff. And then, you have stuff like that happen. And then I'm just like, you know what? I like sometimes just having the simplicity of just turning on a console and picking a game, installing it, and then playing it. Like,
I will say the gaming aspect of PC gaming is probably the simplest part. It's all the other shit that can go wrong with your computer that
I also had my own problem, because I recently, my buddy that I played Escape from Tarkov with, he ended up sending me his old computer because I needed a new graphics card. I was running old graphic card, and now I'm moving into a 10 series graphic card.
Oh,
so,
dang. 4000 series is coming out next year.
I know. But so it was still a huge upgrade for me. But the funny thing was, I'm like, well, I'm going to build the wife a computer with the spare parts, right?
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
So we go to build this whole computer, get it all together. And then I put I'm going to move into the other case because it's bigger and stuff like that. And it's nicer, but it's a pre-build. So I put everything in, and then I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't recognize my CPU. Okay, well, put back in the old CPU, fucking download all the drivers, update the entire thing, put my new CPU back in it again, start it up. It's like freezing every time. And it's like, well, a RAM or a CPU has changed and it was trying to fix it and it couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
And we're like, we must have done everything. Pulled out RAM sticks, swapped the slots, did everything to try to fix this computer to make it run. We're like, we have no idea. I'm like, you know what? Just for the heck of it, let's put the old CPU back in it and see what happens. It was the newer CPU was freezing the computer because it just wouldn't work with that motherboard. And it's like
needed like a BIOS update or something.
No, the BIOS update was fully updated. It recognized the CPU, recognized running it, did everything. Everything
wild.
proved that the CPU was working, but it just wouldn't. It couldn't update Windows to recognize that the CPU was there.
That's crazy.
So it was just
a eventually get it to work, or do you just have?
I just threw everything back into the other case, and they had to do a full swap. So I had to move hard drives, friggin' RAM, CPU coolers, everything had to move on to back to my computer with everything, and then moved everything to the wife. And I'm like, I hope you're happy. She's like, why is that? And I'm like, well, originally I was gonna have 3 SSDs in my computer and actually have it so I could do stuff. Now I just have a regular HDD in it, my original SSD, and that's it. You get all the other hard drives, and you have the SSDs on your computer. You can thank me later.
Lucky. You want to know who else is very lucky? We are, because we get to play The Cult of the Lamb, which we will be talking a lot about today, along with the THQ Nordic Showcase, Beyond Good and Evil 2, finally getting a new lead writer, Elden Ring possibly coming to Game Pass, and a interesting new test from Stadia, and so much more, because this is the Dual Screens Crossplay podcast, where each and every week we talk about all the news and stuff because we can. Uh, Crossplay podcast posts every week on your listening device of pleasure, including our home Podbean. You can also check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Dual Screens TV. That's DUEL. Finally, if you want to, show us that you love us and support us even more, you can head over to patreon.com/Dual Screens, just like our Patreon producers, Colton, the Apprentice Nestler, and FNH Paul. These shows could not exist without you guys, so we love and appreciate you very, very much. We're going to jump right in to our adventures in gaming, because there is a big new release this week. I'm going to tell you guys right now, Cult of the Lamb is going to be all over this show. It's going to be all over Andy's nuts. It's going to be, I'm sure Andy will find out a way to bring it up in the crossplay pod or the Dual Screens podcast. Like, Cult of the Lamb is so good. We've got
It's so good.
an opinion piece up on the site right now. Andy's finishing up his review as well.
We've also got gameplay. We've got a couple trailers as well on the gameplay on the show. Andy, I think it was Andy, went through every single boss and beat it without taking damage. So if you want to see some crazy stuff where if you're having trouble with those bosses, definitely check that out. You can see some strategies that Andy did for sure in that video. So
yeah, lots of content around this game. This game is so perfect. It's like the best melding of two genres that don't make sense until you put them together that I have ever seen. Animal Crossing meets like Dead Cells in just the best way possible. Kory, tell me about your experience with Cult of the Lamb so far.
Like so far, the crazy thing is like it's funny. When I even talk to my friends about this game and I describe the game and stuff like that, it's funny how a lot of people with this game seem to sit on the it's one of those things where it tickles those people that really want to play a new roguelike. Because whether or not, I know there's lots of different roguelikes that come out all the time, but in all honesty, we don't see enough quality roguelikes that come out time after time. And it's one of the bigger things that I've noticed. And so my buddy's like, this looks good, it's great, blah blah. And then he's like, oh wait, the roguelike part's only this long. He's like, I don't know if I want to like jump into this. But then you saw like some parts of the building aspect of it, and he's like, okay, it tickles his fancy enough to try it. And for me, like I'm like, oh yeah, I love this. I'm like, I don't know if how much time I'm going to spend building my town. I really don't care about that kind of stuff. Usually I'm like a guy that just likes to play the roguelike, and like I do like the idea of that certain aspect. Like I love Dark Cloud, that little bit of okay, let's build a town, call it a day, right? But then all of a sudden I started playing this game, and I kid you not, before we started recording today, I'm halfway through the game at this point. I've just beat the second set of the second main boss. And I have spent like in game like almost 6 to 7 days, and I haven't left to go into the dungeon because I'm just constantly sitting there upgrading my town.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is so many things to do that I've kind of got lost in all the different things. I'm like, oh, okay, well I can go fishing, and I go fish, and then I go, oh well, my people are hungry. Well, I better go make some food, and then
and the fucking dice mini game.
Oh, the dice mini game, and yeah. The other crazy part is that there's so many things that, like, even the idea of like, I thought it was a joke to call it Cult of Lamb. I just thought it was going to be a game where it's like build a town simulator and your guys just automatically do things, and it's just an auto, like, you know how those games where you have auto minions, right? And they just go and do stuff. No, this is completely different. The idea that every time we get that choice to pick a new, I guess I'll call it a commandment, but basically we get to pick a new commandment for our cult to believe in. Mm. The idea that it's like, okay, choose like like, oh well, your cult, like what was one of the choices I has is either A, my guys are fine with being cannibals and eating followers that have died or whatever, and I've harvested their meat and turned them into food, and they'll be fine with that. Or B, they're gonna be fine eating grass.
Yeah.
And so you get those choices to choose the way you want to play your cult. And so it's really crazy how those small choices, and then like I say, when you have that, then every time you make a food, you know, depending on each food, like one might make them poop right away. One might make them almost instantly die. One might make it so that they you know, just really dislike you. Like there's so many
Yeah.
different things you can, and it's every choice. Like my experience of how my cult's going to turn out is going to be different from your experience and how the cult turned out. And then like I see this more replayability, not in the sense of the actual roguelike part of the game. I see this being more a replayability on the town building aspect of
Yeah,
the
and
game,
how you
which
build your
is
cult and
yeah, which is
what the
so
goal
different
is.
because usually when you play a roguelike, you're like, I'm playing this because, oh, I beat the game with a sword and shield. Well, I want to try to beat it with doing this, or like you're trying to beat it a different way.
Yeah.
This one, you're like, I'm gonna beat it the same way. It's just I'm gonna choose how my town upgrades differently.
Yeah. The gameplay is really solid still though. Like
Oh,
the
100%.
combat and stuff is super fluid. It feels really really good. I was really impressed by that. I honestly came into this thinking, all right, this is primarily going to be like a town sim and it's got this light little like roguelike thing on top of it, you know? And I've been really impressed. Like there's a lot of depth in like the number of weapons and the types of weapons, the like curse abilities that you can get and stuff. Um I really like the diversity that you get in each run, and the combat is super super satisfying. I haven't been able to play as much of the game as I would have liked, but I've put in I am like halfway through the second area,
Mm, mm, mm.
and it's just so good. Like it plays so good, and it scratches all the right itches. Like I'm
Well, and it's easy to learn, and
yeah.
that's the big thing I like about this game, and it's something that I will recommend to people because I watched one review on it too. And they did recommend that if you're really good at games, that put it to hard right away
Mhm.
because doing this game on medium, it is like I have yet to die.
Yeah.
I've just put myself on medium. But that's the thing I like about it though is because it has those difficulty variations. Someone that maybe is more looking at this for a town building game and likes the sim aspect of that, but doesn't really care too much for the roguelike, turn it to medium or easy. There you go. Like just walk through the battle system, build your cult the way you want it to. If you're a person that wants to challenge yourself on the roguelike aspect of it and not really worry too much about the town, turn it up to hard, play it that way. Like there's it just this game is gonna tickle everyone's fancy a little different. And that's
Yeah.
what I love about it, is it's a game that doesn't have like that's one problem, especially with most roguelikes that I find, is it's either you play it and you like it right off the bat, or you're just like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
there's like Hollow Knight, love the game. It's a good game. I understand why it's good. But for me personally, I'm just like I can't I'm for me, there's not enough stuff outside of the main Metrovania, like massive, super hard Dark Souls you kind of play
Mhm.
to make me want to continue playing it. Whereas like certain games like Shovel Knight, or not Shovel Knight, Rogue Legacy, one of the very first kind of major roguelikes. That was just a funny. I still never beat it. Played it ridiculous amount of hours, but it was just because it was funny to see all the different combinations of characters you could get. So like every roguelike usually has something that pulls you in. And I find with this game having all the different things in it, it has so many different aspects of the game to keep people interested that this is gonna probably it's gonna be like the Elden Ring of roguelikes for right now, where everyone's gonna try it out and find enjoyment in some way, shape, or form with this game. And
Mhm.
I have a feeling that this would be one of the best selling roguelikes of this year, if not, you know, I wouldn't put it past being up in a lot of people's game of the year for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's just a lot of mass appeal, from the like Animal Crossing type community, the like hardcore roguelike people and everything in between. Like it's a good ass game that a lot of people. Um
100%.
I have also stepping away from Cult of the Lamb for a little bit. I've been dabbling in Elder Scrolls Online. I don't know if it's a
How
mistake.
well, no, but how is that? So like I remember when it first came out, it was an absolute gong show.
Yeah,
But most Bethesda MMOs that they've come out with, like Fallout 76, were a gong show. But the difference is I found that Elder Scrolls really kind of understood where its fan base wanted to be and
mhm,
then really fixed it towards that. And I've continued to have it installed on my console. Like it is installed on my console as we currently speak.
yeah. Um,
Because there's always those little, should I go back to it?
yeah.
Like, do I need to?
I still don't fully understand the game. I'm being totally honest. I go to the little arrow that it tells me to go to. I kill the things. I find the item. I come back with the item. I get the experience point. I level up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still not 100% sure what's going on or how to like get around to different places or anything
Yeah.
like that. But it's fun. Like it's been a good like kind of mindless, turn on like a YouTube video or a podcast or something, and just like kind of zone out while I like do quests and stuff. And I love
Yeah.
that world. Like the Morrowind content is all free. So you can like go back to Morrowind and um, explore that area in like a little bit more modern setting.
Yeah.
And that's all like included with the base game and everything. Um, that's fun. I don't know. I don't, I'm still so early on. I can't tell you if it's actually good.
Oh,
It's
okay. Yeah. I've
it's
played like I
fun
think
for
I
sure.
got about 20 hours in to the game side of it. And like I
Yeah.
said, that's where um you have to go. The one thing I tell a lot of people is Elder Scrolls Online, you have to go in not wanting it to be a Skyrim but
Yeah.
multiplayer, but wanting it to be a game that's in that world and good for it. So like
Yeah.
you really have to go in understanding that it's an MMO that's just
Yes,
in
totally.
the universe of Elder Scrolls,
And I
right?
think since the like amount of time I put into New World, it
Yeah.
has kind of like shifted my thought process around that a little bit.
Yeah,
Um
and
and
that's a
I
big thing for a
understand
lot
it a
of
little
people.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for a lot of people. A lot of people like when New World came out, especially, it was once again like the Elden Ring of MMOs, where everybody jumped in,
Mm,
and then all these people, like my brother, was a huge example of that, where he had never played an MMO,
yeah.
and so he's playing, and he's like, I don't understand any of this. Like, why do I have to join with people? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's just the MMO basis of games. It's what you got to do. Like, just do it. And like, man, MMOs now though, like just in general, like we're starting to see a big reviving of MMOs where like the communities are getting really big. Like Final Fantasy continues to release content. I continue to want to have the urge to go back into it. But due to the fact that because I had a full version account, I can't play the trial. So I would have
Uh
to pay the $15 a month to continue playing it, or completely make a whole new character, a whole new Square Enix account, and then connect that and probably play through Steam. It's my
yeah.
other option to play for free. But it's crazy to me that you watch a lot of these games, and it is nice to see that there are games where they're getting constant upgrades and stuff like that
It
compared
definitely
to
seems
before.
like
So,
there's a ton of content. Like I have not even come close to scratching this, but
oh yeah, huge amount, huge
um
amount.
one other thing that I played that I forgot to put on the list, that just came out this last week is called Hard West 2.
Yes, I've
Um,
I've heard. I played the first one. It was on originally on Switch, and it actually was like very. You could tell it was very indie when it first came out.
yeah, so this game just released like a week and a half ago, something like that. It's a turn-based strategy, think XCOM style game. They have a really cool system where if you kill an enemy, you gain all of your action points back. And so if you can like get on a roll and like kill a couple of the like low health enemies or something, you can just
Yeah,
like keep going and keep going. And It's a really, really cool system. The characters are all really interesting so far. Haven't put a ton of time into it because I've been mostly focusing on Cult of the Lamb, but it's good. Initial impressions, fun game. Kory, you have one other game on your list.
I have one other game, and this game to me, I thought I would never enjoy right out of the gate. I thought it looked really cool, but I'm like just to put it out there, I'm probably the guy that likes wrestling the least next to Andy.
Yeah.
On this podcast group and core. Everybody I know that's all my friends in the States love wrestling, don't understand the appeal. But I've been playing Rumbleverse. And for being a battle royale wrestling game, this is amazing. I've never been so addicted to a battle royale in my life.
Really?
This has taken over my literally I was sitting there last night when there was queues because the servers were having such issues that I was in a queue of like 80,000 waiting to get in. And I'm like, I'm going to wait because I wanted to play more Rumbleverse. The idea that this game scratches that itch of Battle Royale, it has such a simplistic system to learn, but such a simplistic system for people that anybody can jump in and probably do okay. And the idea that it has that aspect of being a really, really high tech based system to where to master this, it's like ridiculously. There's a lot of stuff I have to learn. Like I have videos. I captured some video the other week of me having a literal. It was a 7-minute final battle between me and this other guy for 7 straight minutes, and a final circle that was 2 cars in a size of us just going at it back and forth, just to kind of like because he was on a roof, I wasn't, and it would be like I knew he would try to jump down off the roof. So I would stay underneath and then I would wait for him to jump down and I would take him out. And then like we both had the ability to meditate. So if we stand still, we could heal. So it was more or less like, okay, if I don't aggress at him for a couple seconds, he'll go into that heal mode. Then I'll try to get up on top of the roof. But if I get out of the ring, it's going to count me out by 10 seconds. Like it's not like you lose health. When you're out of the ring, you get a 10-second timer. And the way it works in this game is every ring continues to keep that 10-second timer. So if we're in the final ring, and he does say he does a giant throw or like a giant swing, or he does he clotheslines me and throws me out of the ring, or he tackles me in some way, I fly out of the ring and I get counted down to 5 seconds. If he knocks me back out again, I start at 5. I do not start at 10. I start back at 5. So the whole thing is I'm sitting there with like 5 seconds left and I'm like, okay, well, if I bounce off this and get back, I'm going to take 3 seconds to get back. So that's something I have to take into consideration when I get back.
Yeah.
And it was like down to the point where how I ended up getting him out was he jumped down trying to take me out. I tackled him off the roof. He ended up falling out, being counted down to 5. I elbow dropped him, which knocked him back again. And then I ran into the circle and he only had 2 seconds to get back and he had to come in directly into the circle. And I ended up doing a giant cyclone arm attack that basically hit him and killed him as he was entering the circle, or he would have been counted out if he got knocked back out. But it's just like, and if you had your special and you die, then you regenerate your health and get another second life, or you can use your special to do these crazy, basically power drive moves where the higher you fall in this game, the more damage you take, or the more damage you do. So it's a really cat and mouse game where like I have a video too of where I was standing on this giant 20-story building and I watched this guy no bigger than a pea walk across on my monitor, just this little tiny thing. And I'm like, okay, there's a box right in front of him. I'm going to go, and I jumped off the roof and did a flying elbow. And I fell all down this thing, and big giant bottle of fire is just trailing my guy. And I hit him all the way from the roof and do 3/4 of his health gone in one move, and then finished him off. And it's like, there's just so many crazy aspects of this game where, there's all these twists and turns of when you want it, when you want to engage with someone, when you don't. And there's other things they have boost potions in this game. So instead of the Fortnite way where you have shield potions as your life, or an Apex where you have grades of armor to pick up.
Yeah.
All you pick up is you can pick up special moves, and you can pick up items to carry in your pockets, which you have 4 pocket slots. And then you have And each special move, there's all these different types. There's grapple moves, and then there's physical damage moves, and then there's like spear type moves. But they all have 3 different levels. So every move has 3 different levels, which then changes the priority of where it fits with attacking.
Uh,
And then, so the way it works is you can pick up these boost potions. Every character has 10 slots. And the way it works is that throughout those 10 slots, every time you drink a potion, you get a 10% increase to that stat. So you have attack, health, or stamina. So, but you only get 10 potions. So you could sit there if you were a real diehard character and be like, you know what? I'm going to be a glass cannon. I'm going to try to find 10 attack potions, and I'm going to have a 100% increase on my damage.
yeah.
And just be like,
but
just but so weak, and you can only do so many moves because your stamina bar is so weak. Or you could be like, I want to be a tank. I'm going to get 10 full health potions and just survive anyone's special because I have like 2,000 health, which is going to take 3 or 4 specials just to kill me. So there's a lot of customization where it fits whatever playstyle you have. And then depending on what specials you're finding, you might change the way that you build your character in the sense of like potions and stuff. And then, like I say, you have your 4 items, which is basic of like, they change the way. So like, for example, like with food items, you can eat the food item to heal, but if you eat the item to heal when you're full health, it gives you a stamina health regen. And same with stamina potions. Stamina potions aren't instant stamina; they're a little bit of instant stamina, and then here's 60 seconds of stamina regen. So like, you might be planning out to tackle a guy, and you'll be like, okay, drink the stamina potion, eat a piece of meat. Okay, now I got both regen. Go at him, and then it's like, and then you're battling with him for so long. As you do more damage, you gain a special bar, and then a special also you can go into special mode and do more damage and heal as you're doing it. So you've got to take into consideration that when you're fighting someone, if he does a bunch of damage to you, he could go special before you because you're engaging him. So like, it brings this really weird concept to a battle royale where it's very simplistic, but like some of the moves I've seen people do where like I watched one guy do an uppercut against a guy into a building, and he basically latched onto the wall because he got hit so hard he flew and hit the wall. Then his partner runs and jumps, and then because he bounces off the wall as after he runs and jumps and does a flying choke slam, hits the guy midair with the choke slam, and goes down 6 stories and just murders him. And I'm like, that has got to be some of the coolest things I've seen. Or like someone's trying to run away and he jumps and grabs him in the air and suplexes him, and it's just like, that's wrestling, and that's amazing, and it's so much fun. It's like Ready to Rumble boxing that came out where it was that arcadey boxing style, but just wrestling games. Much fun.
It seems really cool. I haven't checked it out yet, but
Well, maybe we'll have to have a game night here on the part of the Patreon group. We'll do a game night, get a bunch of people in, and we'll play together. And
is it
do
free
that.
to play? Or
yes,
it is. Okay.
Yeah, but if you're on PC, it has to go through Epic, because it's made by Epic. And if you're on console, it's free on everything. And then there is crossplay, but you do have to make an Epic account so that if you want to play with your friends, you have to connect through Epic to do that.
All right,
there you go.
It is time to get into the release roundup. Coming out this last week, 2 Point Campus came out on everything August 9th. Lost in Play, Switch and PC August 10th. Cult of the Lamb came out on everything August 11th, as well as Rumbleverse August 11th. Marvel's Spider-Man came out on PC August 12th. Multiverses officially released, or officially releasing PS5, Xbox Series, PS4 on August 15th. Blossom Tales 2, The Minotaur Prince 16th. And finally, Roller Dome coming out on PlayStation consoles and PC August 16th.
And as for those who want to know, if you want to know what Rumbleverse is also like, check out our last episode where I go in depth talking about being super shaky and wrecking all the noobs online.
It's time for the Dual Screens report. We've got a decent amount of news this week after a kind of slow news week last week.
Yeah, last week we were really pulling at threads to try to find things, whereas
Yeah,
this week was like trying to pick what we can actually want to talk about
yeah.
between all the news, which
There's
is nice.
there's at least a couple of decent things here. First, quick summary of the THQ Nordic Digital Showcase. A new Alone in the Dark got announced. Tempest Rising looks like this cool like RPG RTS kind of a thing.
Looks
Um,
really cool.
yeah, it seems cool. Recreation or Recreation. Recreation. It's like stunt driving. Um,
Well, this
kind
is the
of
same. This is based off of Wreckfest, right? So for those who don't know, Wreckfest was the guys that made like a basically like a demolition derby well racing game that was like kind of that weird cross of like NASCAR racing and dirt racing with the idea of being able to wreck your opponents while doing it. And it looks like what they've done now is changed it to more of a build whatever tracks you want, do whatever you want,
yeah,
open world aspect to it, which is kind of cool. And
very
then
arcadey.
it's very arcadey and like the best way I like about it is that like they say here, it's ex developers of Burnout and Need for Speed. So this very much has some Burnout vibes to it, and I'm loving every bit of this game.
They announced Space for Sale, which, if you've ever dreamed of being like a real estate scum in space, you can do that. You get your real estate people, aliens drunk, and get them to buy houses and stuff on, and it looks kind of charming. Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed got a gameplay trailer. Gothic is being remade. Um, HQ on remaking those games.
Yeah,
Jagged Alliance 3. I wasn't familiar with Jagged Alliance, so
I have no idea what this even is. It says
uh
this is a top-down strategy game. That's
yeah.
cool.
But Outcast 2, we got story and gameplay trailer. I'm really excited about this one. The first Outcast game was a little janky, but had like some good stuff going for it. I'm really excited about this. It's like a very fun mix of like RPG, like third person action RPG and like survival in a really cool way. So I'm excited about that. Knights of Honor 2 got a gameplay trailer. SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake got a gameplay trailer for Bob Heads. And then the other night game, Valiant, got gameplay revealed as well. And finally, Way of the Hunter. Um,
Got
which
its release date, which was
yeah,
interesting enough too,
yeah, this
which
game
looks really
looks
good.
way too
I
detailed for me.
Yeah, I watched. So just for people that want to know, I watched a review on this already. It's already got reviews out with some people. Basically, if you like hunting and you want the most intense simulation version of it, I played a lot of Call Hunt of the Wild just because my brother's into hunting and he's like, let's play a hunting game together, and I'm like, sure. This game takes that and notches it up to like 11. So the realistic value of this game is insane, where you might spend 20 minutes trying to hunt down one animal to shoot it, but it's also got a little bit of those aspects of being an actual like arcadey game that gives you aspects so it's not a full realistic thing. So it looks really good. And the other thing that they didn't list here by the article we looked at was THQ also announced they're doing a South Park game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they just announced it. It was just like at the
Mhm.
back end, so I don't
Yeah,
think they talked
we
about it
didn't get
much.
like any gameplay or anything like
I
that, any
think it's just
details. But
here. It's here.
interesting that is South Park is leaving the grips of Ubisoft.
That was a shocking part, considering like Ubisoft is like what the third or fourth one of the big game companies out
Yeah,
there right now.
as far as like third party developers, I would say they're probably third behind EA and Activision. And
Yeah,
so Like they're huge.
Yeah. And for them to
They
be that big and then like oh I know yeah, for them to be that big and then like not have like to just leave and then go to do with THQ makes me really wonder what kind of game. And that's what the difference is too, what kind of game it is because with
yeah.
Ubisoft it was an RPG whereas moving with THQ has a lot of tactics developers with that a lot of developers that are, you know, they make a lot of tactics games or strategy based games and they also make a lot of third person more of the RPG aspect like third person game. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get more of a tactics version of South Park, which would
I
be
think
kind
that'd
of
be
an interesting
cool.
take on it. I think it'd be an interesting way to do it. The idea that the stick of truth and all that, we've really seen that the RPG aspect of South Park really makes sense and works.
Yeah.
So having a tactics version of it would make all the sense for sure.
Yeah, and obviously like Trey and Matt are still going to be like very heavily involved
Oh
from
yeah,
all of the reports around the stick of truth and the fractured but whole. They were like very heavily involved in like writing and
yeah.
what the game actually looked like. So I wouldn't be
I wouldn't
surprised.
be with the way South Park's been going too as well with now their whole new thing with Paramount and stuff like that, where they're making straight to stream movies or like mini movies basically. I wouldn't doubt it in my mind if we maybe see that they do a kind of cross between here's an episode of South Park and like leading into the story, kind of like what they did with the Stick of Truth, where
Yeah.
it was kind of like taking basis off a couple episodes. So it's gonna be really cool to see it for sure.
Speaking of Ubisoft, great news. Beyond Good and Evil 2 finally has a lead writer. The highly anticipated game announced back in what 2016.
Oh, it's longer than that. I think if I'm correct, I remember reading a thing about this where they announced that they were working on it in like 2000 as soon as it came out. Like it's been like since the PS3. It's almost been
Official
since
It
like
was officially announced at E3 in 2017.
yeah,
So
and they knew they there was rumors of them working on it since like 2015,
yeah.
if not earlier than that.
um
So
they have a
craziness.
new lead writer in the year of our Lord 2022. It has been 5 years since they've announced that game, and they have a lead writer. The thing I
And
am
then on
most concerned about here is typically you hire up writing staff in the
first,
beginning. Yeah.
yes.
Then after
Well,
that, it's like, development code, like getting everything like, pieced together so that it actually works. Like, yeah.
Well, it seems really weird that this is not the first time we've seen this happen either lately. It seems like with the way that gaming's got lately, like remember we saw that trailer for that Rare game, that Rare was making, where they showed this huge, like it had people talking in it, it had like you know action combat in it, like it was a cinematic trailer that was like, okay, this game must be like pretty far along, and then you find out that they don't have a story written for it yet they don't have any of this other stuff done. And it seems like with the way that motion capture and stuff can be done nowadays and CG and things like that, where really all it is nowadays is, I mean, obviously there's more to the game, but it's a lot more of, hey, okay, we're going to mocap this guy. Then we're just going to program the mocap body to do this. And we're going to make a couple scenes that look really cool and then announce that as a trailer. And nowadays, like, we're seeing that writers are coming in later into games instead of coming in right away, which is really weird concept to see. And the idea that I think it was just today, actually, um, Beyond Good and Evil, because they were asked at that point, okay, well, you've got your new lead writer. How long is the game out? And they still say they're a couple,
Oh
if
yeah.
not more, years away. Like they're still 2 to 3 years out on this game.
Oh, at least if they're if
We
they're hiring up on a lead writer, it wouldn't surprise me if they were another 5 years out.
oh
Like,
yeah, this is gonna be another Duke Nukem Forever game,
yeah,
and
the thing that like really frustrates me about Ubisoft right now too is they have no leadership, right? Like
yeah,
it was this like literal exact same thing happened with Skull and Bones, where
yep,
they announced the game, they have no idea what it's actually going to be. they end up completely overhauling what it's actually going to be and changing the game completely, like leading up to its launch. It's just
Well,
wild to me.
this is
It's like floundering.
well, it's the same thing as Immortals Phoenix Rising, right? Immortals Phoenix Rising was really supposed to be Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
And the idea it went from being an Assassin's Creed game to being what it was. I mean, I love what it became. Like, let's not argue that is an amazing game. But the idea that it changed so much, and yeah, Skull and Bones was originally released as a battleship fighter that was going to run off the Black Flag engine
Yeah. And
to
now it's
be
entirely on land with the exception of like a handful of sea battles. Like it just I don't
yeah,
know.
it's just weird. It's
They
weird.
just don't seem to have any vision over there right now. Like they are
No, it's
way
all
too
over the place.
reactive, which I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
know.
and I think that's the big thing is I think the big thing with Ubisoft is like in the last I would say 4 or 5 years they've been doing a lot of damage control more than anything.
Yeah.
And it's more them going like what was it? We saw because we saw Assassin's Creed games came out every year. And then they're like everyone's like please stop. Like your games are absolute trash at this point. Like you need to
Yeah.
stop. Like the idea that Assassin's Creed 2 had such a strong like the Ezio collection is such a strong series of games from them. And then we go into Assassin's Creed 3 and Unity where it was just like no, please. Like you guys are just Call of Dutying this and it's terrible.
Yeah.
And then so they had to recover on that. And then we went into Ghost Recon where Tom Clancy passed away, like rest his soul and everything. And then they come up with a battle royale Ghost Recon game that's based in the future, and everyone's like, "What are you doing? Like this is nothing compared to what the Ghost. You can't just take the Ghost Recon name and slap it on to something and hope that it works."
Yeah,
And
it's every single franchise of theirs. Like
yeah, they're just
it's
all over the place.
it
It's
it's
so weird.
very like I said, they're unimaginative and reactionary. They just
Yeah,
like everything is just put something out there and then see what backlash we get and then change it to address that backlash
yeah, and that,
instead of like standing by their vision.
well, and it's worked out well for certain things, like Assassin's Creed. Lucky enough, took a proper turn, kind of where I think Origins was probably the last true Assassin's Creed game we got, just because uh, you know, I
Yeah.
think that one was great because Origins was still a stealth game. It still was in the world of Assassin's Creed. It still made sense. Like everything that happened made sense for the timeline, kind of. Whereas then we got into Odyssey,
Yeah.
which was this really weird, like gods, demons, and like Atlantis, and it's like okay,
Odyssey was
like
really good. Like
it was good,
as
but
disjointed as it was from like the story of Assassin's Creed, like it was
it was really
a
good.
very
It was
like
one of the
good and inspired game and
oh, 100
like
percent.
extremely well written. Like Cassandra as a
Oh,
character was
I they could have put any name on that, and I would have like that's the thing. Like I think Odyssey, they could have named it something completely different, and I would have that game would have been amazing. It didn't have to be part of Assassin's Creed, and that's what I mean. Is like in look even looking at Valhalla, right? Valhalla outside of the Assassin's Creed, it doesn't need to have the Assassin's Creed
no,
name
it doesn't.
attached to it to be a good game, and that's where I like the way of them doing that. And I think that if they should have just they should if they're gonna make great games like Valhalla and they're gonna make great games like Odyssey, I think Ubisoft with the developers they have right now and stuff like that, and I think a lot of franchises need to learn from this lesson. Stop caring about your franchise's name and care about just bringing
Making a
good
good
content
game.
out. Like, you know what? Come up with a game that's got mechanics from Assassin's Creed. I don't care. Name it something different. I'm gonna still buy it if it's got what I like in it. And I think that's where companies like not Ubisoft's everybody's got faults on this, not just Ubisoft, where there's too many times lately we've been seeing it where they're so diehard. Same with Beyond Good and Evil too. Like they're so diehard on trying to like reconnect us with this world and this game and this thing and all this stuff, and so they have to like try to tie it all in and try to make it all work and whatever. When like Beyond Good and Evil 2, they could have called it Beyond Good and Evil, dash someone's story, put it in the same world, brought us a new character, new same world, everything, and everyone would have loved it. But it's just they're trying to connect it to the original game because it had such a hype on it, and I think companies just need to work on that. Like, look at Elden Ring. Learn from Elden Ring.
Speaking of Elden Ring might be coming to Game Pass. Not so fast. In a recent ad for Xbox Cloud Gaming, there were images of games included in that service, like Elden Ring. Are not actually on the Game Pass Cloud.
GTA 5 and Soul Hacker 2.
Yeah, a handful of games that are on the Microsoft Store but not a part of that. People obviously started freaking out, right? Like the biggest media property of all time in GTA 5 and the best game that's coming out this year, is huge news. But it turns out it was false for whatever reason. They're like AI for generating this stuff pulled database, they corrected it. So hold your horses.
It's almost as bad as Call of Duty copying the Gundam symbol for their mobile game.
But they got it all corrected. It's all fixed now. Elden Ring confirmed, not coming to Game Pass. Another game not coming to Game Pass and not coming to the Xbox store anytime soon. That's a trend. Harry Potter got delayed again.
Which it's really crazy to see. Well, it's there's so many ways to take this, right? Like right now with so many things that we're seeing, like we saw Forsaken move out of the slot of being a holiday game. And, you know, it's a Square Enix game, but at the exact same time, it's been hugely sponsored and marketed by Sony. And the idea that Harry Potter, which has got the same thing, that it's another big game that was supposed to come out in the holiday window, and the thing is, it fit the same. It's been once again marketed and done everything a lot by Sony. It seems really like a lot of these games, we don't know if they're moving out of the way of God of War or if they're taking that.
I don't think that's.
I think really what's happening, and this is where, you know what, we talked about this last year. I know you and me were on the podcast last time we talked about this. I think developers are finally getting smart to the point of going, should we release this game as basically Harry Potter and whatever game it is, 0.8 version, and then patch it for day one and then patch it to make it work properly where we get our true vision probably a month down the road or 2 months down the road and make it so that, there's obviously going to be glitches and everything else? Or do we take that extra 2 months to make sure that when this game comes out, it's like, this is the vision we wanted. This is the game we wanted. And I think that's more, I know God of War is kind of made where it looks like it's a big giant scare for everyone. But I think really what it comes down to is I think we're finally seeing where a game at this point can release any time of year and sell. Elden Ring's proven that. There's a lot of other like Horizon proved that in the February window.
I mean, yeah, pretty much every FromSoft game ever has released in like Q1 or Q2.
Yeah, and it always proves that a game can come out at any point in time of the year, whether there's lots of other games around it, whether there's not. And if it's a good game, it's going to sell and do well.
Yeah.
And I think that developers are finally taking that and going, hey, you know what? We could release this tomorrow. It will be okay. But, let's take that couple months and release it when we want. Like they've already, with the Harry Potter being delayed, there was some stuff that came out, I think, a couple days ago or even just recently, like even a couple hours ago, where they were showing off because they were asked, okay, well, why are you delaying it? And people were going, well, we want to really work on the game and make it better. Here's a picture of our world map that we want to have. And like that world is huge. Like the idea that Hogwarts is this little tiny dot on this map, like you can't even, like, it's almost like they just put a little pin in the map in the ground and there's Hogwarts, right? And we're going to see beyond the forest and there's going to be all this area around it and explore and stuff like that. And, that's very, very, big passion project for them. And I mean, especially when you're having a game like Harry Potter, where it's like what the third biggest franchise ever released in the world. I think they really need to make sure that it does well. You can't just throw it out like other big multi-million dollar franchises, Avengers, and come out and not be well or good or be what people want.
I
And so
think a lot of these delays too show there is a disconnect between like hands-on developers and upper management that's making things like that.
yeah,
And there always has been that little bit of a gap, but it seems like that gap is getting bigger.
hmm
Because like the leadership wants to capitalize on pre-orders, right? That is
yeah,
real recognized revenue when they announce a game basically, that they can put in the bank for when the game comes out. And if you delay it or whatever, like it's hard. So there's obviously like financial motivation. They want to get it in before the end of the year, get it through their fiscal year so the year looks good. Um and so like the shareholder and the leadership decision to announce a game at a certain time is more and more frequently coming to head with the like actual product that comes out. And a
yeah.
lot of these timelines accelerated way more. So
And that
I'm yeah, I'm of the mind that like over the next couple of years we're gonna continue to see leadership and stuff. If these games in Q1, Q2 like perform really, really well, they're
mhm.
not gonna be so tied down to like getting a game.
Well, and in all honesty, I think when from looking at the way sales have been the last couple of years, it's almost smarter to release in Q1, Q2 because now you've got all those people that got brand new consoles during Christmas. And I know the
Mhm.
big push is to go, here's this brand new game that comes out right around the time the new console, like everyone's got consoles that are brand new and they go buy games.
Yeah.
But what the trend we've been seeing lately is it's like I got my new PS5 during Boxing Day so that in January or February when that new game comes out, I can play it. Right. And so it seems like people are more making that choice, especially with subscription services now. I wouldn't doubt it if this boxing year, especially, or like the Christmas holiday season sales we see, we're going to see more of a hey, buy your PlayStation now instead of getting a game. We're going to get a year of subscription services.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna get here's your PlayStation
Here's
Five with
Game
two
Pass. Yeah.
controllers. Here's your and the PS Plus Deluxe Premium Edition for the first for 6 months, or Game Pass for 3 months plus. Like there's no reason to bundle those tiny games in anymore because
Yeah.
like we're not seeing the push to see those games in. Like if someone really wants God of War, they're gonna probably wait for a God of War console to come out or something like that, right?
Well, and
But we're
like
seeing it.
people, they get their shiny new thing for the holiday, and then
Yeah,
the beginning of the year, you want to like get a new thing for your new thing, you know?
yeah.
And so
Oh,
there's
exactly.
there's always that desire right at the beginning, like get something new, something new and
Mhm,
exciting. And so
mhm.
that's why Monster Hunter World did so well. Like that's why a lot of these early in the year releases perform really, because like there are people who either have gift cards or just wanting to get something new for their new thing. Um and it performs. Like I think
Yeah.
we'll continue to see that shift. And see games release more like movies, pretty even space throughout the year.
Yeah, which
All
is
right.
good because I like the idea of having it like before. I remember before it was like having that budget for games, and it would be always okay. So the November to December is going to be $600, and then January to March is like $60, and it
Yeah.
was always such a like, oh, okay, now I got to do all this stuff. Whereas now it's more of I can sit there and go, I'm going to buy one game every month and with sales and stuff like that too, like I spend $60 a month on video games, and doing that I get such a nice wide catalog of games, and I'm getting a good amount of games that I want to play, so it's great.
Yeah, for sure. All right, final story of the episode. Google is
Da-da.
testing launching cloud games directly from search results. There's a couple of cool little features that are included in this. One is allowing people to demo games up until they hit a certain achievement. I wanted to get your thought on this and if doing this versus the 2-hour timer or like X number of missions or whatever, which I mean, it'll ultimately pretty much.
Yeah.
If you feel like this is a better way to test out and know if you like a game before you buy it.
I mean, once again, it comes to the same point, just like with the same thing with the trials that PlayStation has come out with and stuff like that, is it really comes down to a game to game basis. So when you look at, like, for example, even with PlayStation, right? I never knew this until recently because when we got trials originally, when PlayStation did trials back with the PS3 era, it was always 1 hour. You got 1 hour of the game. Didn't matter where you started. Didn't matter everything else. You got 1 hour and that was it. You didn't get trophies. You got nothing. Whereas now it seems like PlayStation's making the move where depending on the game you're playing the trial with, depends on how many hours you get.
Yeah. I
So
think the
like I
publisher
got
gets to, like,
MLB.
set that.
Yeah, well the crazy thing is like MLB The Show 22, I get 4 hours
Yeah.
before and I'm like I'm looking like I'm a trophy hunter and I look up the platinum and you can get the platinum in 6 and I'm like I could literally gain more than 75% of the trophies of this game in the 4 hours it gives me.
Yeah.
And same thing with a lot of the other trials we've had is 2 hours, but the thing is it's all game to game basis like the idea that Ollie has 2 hours worth of playing like that's a good majority of the game you can get done if you're good in 2 hours and stuff like that. And that's where I feel that it helps out a game in that sense where if you're super close to finishing a game and then all of a sudden your trial runs out, you're going to probably be like, "Oh, okay, well it's only $20.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll buy it." And that's where having it to where you get to a certain point in the game and it does it at that point you might as well have like a game demo side of things where it's like you saw Monster Hunter do it. We saw the new Gundam game SD has done it as well. It's the most recent game where it says, "Okay, here you get the first 3 missions of the game.
Yeah.
You can do them as many times as you want. All your stats, everything you have, will move over to the full game. Play it if you want to play this demo for 70 hours. Go right ahead. Everything's going to move over, but we're going to lock you at that point."
Yeah.
It's interesting to look at after a certain achievement in the game. Like I said, it comes down to the point of when is that?
I'm
Like,
very interested to see which game developer fucks us up so that someone can like
yeah.
somehow skirt around getting that achievement and just play the
Oh, I
game.
wouldn't doubt
Like
it. And that's the bit.
if
I
it's
could totally
tied to
see that.
like X number of
Cinematics.
enemies killed or something like that,
Yeah.
like instead of tying it to like a specific mission or something, I
Yeah.
I know there's going to be some creative
Well,
speedrunner that's like getting through the entire game without killing anything or
Well,
whatever.
and that's the big thing. Like a lot of the times when we've seen this before, like back in the day when we used to have, remember we used to have those like from the free software games where it'd be the full version of the game, but it was just locked behind a small thing, or because it would bring you up to a certain level, and then it was treated to go, okay, if you get to level B, it stops you from playing, makes you have to buy the full game. But people were able to find ways to get past that level to start, and then you could play the rest of the game. And so in that sense, I could see it where like maybe say it's after the first mission of a game. Well, if you can find a way to skip that first mission and go directly into the second mission, you can play the rest of the game, right? Because the trigger's not going to go off. And so I, I wouldn't doubt it if there's ways to get around it. There's going to be someone that screws it up and gives away the full version of the game for free.
Yeah, I'm
This
really
stuff always
excited
happens.
if this ends up going through to see the like unique ways that people
But I mean, it's the
gain
neat
it.
thing is, yeah, and the neat thing from playing from a browser, I like the idea that we're getting into that because it's really cool that we're getting to like. I have to admit, after playing remote play on PlayStation again today, with my PlayStation being beside me, PlayStation, get your shit together.
Yeah,
Like honest to
remote
God,
plays bad.
Like remote plays, like it's my screen was blotchy. It was like all washed out. I was only able to get 720p because you say that that's the max I can get with a PS4 Pro. And the only thing you give me with my PS5 is HDR. Like, you need to fix your stuff. The idea that, especially with Xbox and Game Cloud, are able to sit there and do, what is it, 2K gaming, or at least 1080 60 frames per second
with
off a browser, and you're having problems doing this directly connected to my own console, you need to figure your shit out. Because Google, like, this is where, once again, with Google doing this, though, it's interesting to see that if we see a lot of people move into this aspect of Google giving this platform to work, if we don't see Switch or PlayStation or even Microsoft partner with Google in some way, shape, or form to make it so that they can have access through their technology to do this.
Microsoft just does it their own way, like they have with cloud gaming.
Well, that's what I mean, but I want to. It might be somebody else comes up to them and says, "Hey, look." Like I would see maybe PlayStation or Sony probably maybe coming up to them or finding their own way with this working the way it is. Yeah, but Microsoft is by far has the best way to cloud game at this point in time. They have really, I have to admit that with Xbox, especially with Game Pass and everything, Microsoft as a company, and they've always done well at this. I mean, sometimes they've made a couple mistakes, but as a company, they've always found a way to, whenever something new comes out, like PlayStation Now, where PlayStation Now came out and they're like, here's a streaming service you can play games. And Microsoft took the time and the effort and made it better and found a way to make it work and make it viable for people to buy and play. Yeah. And same thing when Google Stadia did their thing. They took a little bit of time. They brought out Xbox Game Cloud Gaming, and they've done it better. And, you know, Microsoft's done really, really well at watching what the market's doing and watching what everyone's doing, and then finding a way to make it better. The only thing they
have the resources, they have the technology, they have the.
They just need to stop putting. They just need to stop putting double A's in their damn controllers. I'm sorry.
I haven't had to change a single battery.
I know. That's what I mean, but that's my only thing. They have upgraded on everything. Microsoft, you get 100% pass. My 1%.
Maybe they just have like a very lucrative deal with Energizer or something.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you remember Alan Wake, Energizer was all over that game.
Might be. Just saying.
Oh, maybe that's it. You know what? You figured it out, Taylor. Okay, Google, you know what? Xbox, I take it back. You've done the lucrative version of making Energizer probably give you the money to just put batteries in your packs. I understand. Okay.
Strong business. All right, we're gonna
strong businessman.
Thank you all so much for joining us. If you want to follow us on socials, I am at It's Purger. He is at the Grounded Gamer, double D, no E. We are at Duel_Screens on Twitter. You can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/D podcasts. Follow us over on Twitch, twitch.tv streams, or youtube.com/dualscreens.tv. And finally, if you love us, if you appreciate us, if you want to support the channel, dualscreens and support us for just $1, you get into our every single day. Till next time, friends, keep doing that cloud gaming.